Let the word go forth.
Fool me once.
Are you fired up?
I'm not a crook.
Are you ready to go?
Shame on you.
It's Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, hosted by Ben Kissel.
Fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Hey, what's up, everyone? How are you? Ben Kissel here with Marcus Parks.
Hello, Ben.
How you doing, Marcus?
Oh.
Ha-ha! It's nice to be in the United States of Russia. Hello, hot takes.
Oh, you're hot.
We're going to talk a lot about what happened in Helsinki. It's in Finland.
Yes, it is.
Donald Trump met with Vladimir Putin for the first time, and what a little puppy he was. Just adorable. Really one of the most unnerving, shocking press conferences we've seen. According to the elderly folks that I listen to and read in the newspapers, they've never seen anything like this in their lifetime.
No.
Certainly not in our lifetime have we ever seen a president side with the Russians over the United States intelligence agencies. So there's a lot to unwrap here, and I think as we talk about in the live show, the question is, why?
Cui bono.
Cui bono. Why? Which is the perfect question, Marcus.
Yes.
It's very short, but without answering that, what do you got?
What do you got? What?
Well, not what, why? So this is my hot take. You want to hear my hot take on why?
Give it to me.
And then we'll also talk a little bit here in a second about this Russian spy that was found. They always send us really great people.
Yeah.
Fun. So this is what I believe. All the there's a lot of sex tape talk, P-tape talk, all that kind of stuff. I think the answer is just so much easier. I think the answer why Donald Trump doesn't want to go against Vladimir Putin is because he knows that Vladimir Putin helped him get elected. Because when Vladimir Putin was asked, did you want Trump to win? Straight up said yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that easy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to feel like anything is invalid. He wants to feel like his presidency is valid. He wants to think his election victory is valid. And it's just that personal and just that simple potentially, in my opinion. It could just simply be that he doesn't want to take any credibility away from his amazing victory over Hillary Clinton.
Well, it very well could be somewhere in between. Like I saw someone speculate that it could just be that the tape that the Russians have is of Donald Trump begging for money.
Could be.
Because nobody here in America, no bank in America, no reputable bank would lend him money. So it could very well be that the tape is not of him having sex with underage sex workers, which seems to be what is the most popular opinion of the day.
Well, that's the most salacious. That's the most fun. By the way, we will be talking a little bit about Stormy here in a second as well. That was a setup in Ohio. You hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh my God, we're so pro team. We're team Stormy over here.
That we are.
All
But,
right.
But it very well could be that it's just Donald Trump saying, I'm broke, I need money, no one will lend me money. And that would be, I think, an even bigger blow to his ego than not winning the election fairly.
So because Donald Trump can't look outside of himself, he's very self-centered, he's very self-focused, very stable genius. He doesn't understand the global ramifications, and I don't think he doesn't have the capability of understanding that he's theoretically representing all of us.
Yes.
He can't do it. So it's just a personal self-protection. That is the reason why he is throwing our intelligence agencies in the trash and really demoralizing the American people, because we just had a president on foreign soil do a hell of a lot worse than Obama did when all the conservatives criticized him for going overseas and apologizing for the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Which one could argue that was something that should have been apologized for. The DNC being hacked by the Russians, it's a little bit different for him to go inside with Vladimir Putin. This is exactly what he said. He said, people came to me, the director of national intelligence, that being Dan Coates. A lot of folks want Dan Coates to resign. He's in a predicament right now. What's the point? What's the point of being there if the president doesn't believe you, you know? So he goes on, my people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, some others said they think it's Russia. Trump continued, I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be Russia. And then today he attempted to walk that back and said he didn't say would be, or he misspoke when he said I don't see any reason why it would be. He said he doesn't see any reason why it wouldn't be.
And he followed that up with, so you can put that in, and I think that probably clarifies things pretty good by itself.
That's, yeah, just
if I would have said that sentence just if I would have said that sentence in the course of a show, everyone would think I suffered a head injury.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he made it more confusing. And then in this double talk world, it's like, so it's less confusing now. Be like, no, it's more confusing. But you will say it's less confusing. And that's the 1984 reality where you currently reside in.
And I think that speaks to what you just said about him not being able to see outside of himself, because that is that by itself, like that misspeaking, like that is possibly the biggest foreign policy or diplomacy blunder in our lifetime, if that is just a gaffe. And he is just brushing it off as not that big of a deal. It's like, what? I misspoke. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, I clarified it. Who cares? Let's move on.
Right. Words have real meaning and real ramifications when you're the president of the United States. That's to say the least. Senator John McCain, who it's very funny because right now on Fox News, I mean, they've been off the rails for a while, but this is really getting full Amtrak here. Yeah. We're getting full, like it's in the dirt here. They said a sentence where it was like the left is criticizing Donald Trump, and then they quoted John McCain. Just to clarify, John McCain has never been a Democrat, never will be a Democrat. Obviously, he's sort of in his twilight years now. He's the senator of one of the most conservative states in the country. Yeah. Arizona. You cannot be a left, a center-right or center-left Republican. I don't think there is a center-left Republican necessarily. Maybe Joe Manchin. It's kind of a funny joke because he's a Democrat. But he won by about 20 points, even though Arizona went heavily for Donald Trump. They go heavily, they're very, very red. So this whole idea that we're going to try to live in a world where John McCain is a Democrat or a liberal should just tell us that there's something very wrong in dairy. Okay, there's something very wrong. That's from it. There's something very wrong with the Republican Party if they have to criticize John McCain as a Democrat so that they no longer have to take his words with any kind of validity. He said this about the press conference in Helsinki. He says, today's press conference in Helsinki was one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate, and I think that is why we're seeing so many Republicans today realizing you got to back this train up a little bit. This could be a colossal nightmare for the GOP. I mean, hey, the midterms are right around the corner, and
this could be a big turning point. You know, we've said that. I have absolutely become. I think this is the first time I've said the word turning point since the election. Yeah. But this does feel like something needs to happen. Somebody needs to stand up, and I'm not sure that everybody can stay sitting down at this point, because even Fox News, I mean, and I know there are some reasonable people.
Shepard Smith, Neil Cavuto came out.
Cavuto came out. Chris Wallace hit pretty hard on Putin during his interview. So there are some people on the right that are speaking out, but on the other hand, Cavuto and Shep Smith and Chris Wallace, they've been saying shit.
Yeah, they're the O'Douls in the beer cart where it's like, we have some non-alcoholic beverages here. Sure, we got a couple of O'Douls.
Yeah, but there haven't really, and everyone else that's been talking, they've been pretty tepid in their responses, but except for Rand Paul, who's come straight out and be like, yeah, whatever.
I have no idea what happened to Rand Paul. It is troubling to see his slow descent into Trumpism. Yeah. And now he's rationalizing respect for a dictator. There's nothing less libertarian than a dictatorship, an oligarchy. The setup of Russia is total antithesis to libertarian ideals. So for him to say that Donald Trump, he didn't even say that it was a false equivalency, Rand Paul. I mean, it was watching him do this sidestep, trying to defend the president. It's a testament to how horrified all of these people are, specifically Rand Paul. He's out of Kentucky. I don't believe he's up for election this year, but he needs Trump supporters, and he's just horrified of losing them because the libertarian Trump support base that can go a little bit into the negative territory of libertarianism, which is a little bit of fascism and a little bit of neo-Nazi supporters, perhaps. Mm-hmm. He's just horrified of losing them. So he's got, for political reasons, to completely give up all of his libertarian morals.
Yeah, and and furthermore, like Donald Trump, when he came back out and said that I meant to say wouldn't instead of would, as per this Washington Post article, he didn't say anything about his statement that he has confidence in both parties. Right. Talking about the U.S. intelligence and the Russians. I mean, what do they have.
As a matter of fact, he said Vladimir Putin welcomed Mueller's team to Russia. He said, come to Russia and work with my intelligence community. And Donald Trump said, that's a pretty good deal. That seems like a great deal to me.
That's a great deal.
It
And
makes-
that deal has already been, that was floated
ridiculous.
months ago, and everyone was like, that is the dumbest fucking idea I have ever heard. And he comes right out. And how many times did he tell Putin, thank you?
Well, man, it's a possibility they're going to subpoena the folks who were interpreters in the room. I would be, if that's what he said in private. We made the joke on the end, towards the end of the last episode about them going butt to butt, and honestly, I think it could have happened. I mean, they're in Finland. There are no rules.
Oh, and speaking of being in Finland,
Lord.
real good choice on Donald Trump's part to bring up Russia's role in World War II in Finland.
Brilliant. And of course, Hillary's emails made a return to the conversation.
And wasn't that nice? I hadn't heard anything about the 33,000 in months, and it was really nice because it took me back to a simpler time.
Right, yeah.
Before Donald Trump was president.
So who is happy with Donald Trump right now? Obviously, there are some Republicans that have no choice other than to defend him. There's more establishment Republicans. As a matter of fact, Marco Rubio has a bill that they may vote on that will attempt to stop Russia from doing what they did in 2016, in 2018, and going forward. We'll see if that gets any traction whatsoever. Israel, once again, Benjamin Netanyahu, extremely corrupt leader of Israel, prime minister, was almost booted out of office. There's a lot of corruption charges against him. He is extremely happy with the meeting because this is according to Donald Trump. He says we both, in referring to Benjamin Netanyahu, he said we both spoke with Bibi Netanyahu, and they would like to do certain things with respect to Syria, having to do with the safety of Israel. Both countries will work jointly, creating safety for Israel is something that both President Putin and I would like to see very much. And because of those statements, Benjamin Netanyahu praised Donald Trump and the relationship with Russia. So when we talk about these, we talk about this in the context of election meddling. That's just one component of it. When we talk about it in a geopolitical setting, and when we talk about it in a geopolitical war and peace setting, Israel is the big winner here because it seems like they're going to be working closer with the Russians to get a stronger foothold in Syria, which would, of course, extend their power throughout the Middle East region. And Israel is the most powerful military, you could argue, on the face of the planet.
Behind us.
Right behind. I mean, we gave it to them, and they kind of made it even better because it's a smaller place, so they can do the dome, and they can have some really... and they have a lot more carte blanche to sort of do the things that they want to do. So once again, we have an interesting situation where Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are happy with Donald Trump, and because of that happiness, we also know who's going to be happy here in the States, the evangelical community. So when we talk about how does Donald Trump have a supporter, like how does the man went on foreign soil and said he agreed with the Ruskies? It's reasons like that that he will continue to have a base of support that just simply will never erode, but he's got to be peeling off people. This has got to be peeling off people. There's no way this is a political winner. But because of that, there are some people that will just stand by him no matter what.
And one spin that I saw in all this, it was a Fox News spin, naturally. But one guy said that, yes, the Russians did hack the DNC, but it wasn't to help Donald Trump. It was to scare Hillary Clinton.
Ooh.
It was a threat. You know, it was Putin saying, look what I can do. It was Putin like kind of showing his stick a little bit.
Right.
And so I think what that will do is I think it'll make Russia into an ally in the minds of Donald Trump supporters because, of course, to them, it doesn't really matter what Donald Trump does just so long as he's not Hillary Clinton. Because to so many people, it's amazing. It's insane how many people hate Hillary Clinton so much. Still, to this day, we are 2 fucking years out from that election.
Right.
We are 2 years out, and still, that holds.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lightning rod for support for the GOP. It's interesting to live in a country now, and I think this is something that we have to remember as our rhetoric has gotten so heated, as everything has gotten so divided. When they made when you didn't have to get a supermajority of the Senate, just 51-49. These things have eroded the trust of the two parties and forced our two parties or allowed our two parties to no longer cooperate. There's no incentive to cooperate. And because of that, we have a situation now, as we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, where Republicans prefer Russia over the Democratic Party.
Yes.
It should have it's gone beyond now, because there was always, back in the day, the unifying factor, the unifying idea that we're Americans.
We're all Americans.
We're all Americans.
That's
I reach across the aisle, the kind of Tip O'Neill, John McCain politics. Those have now completely gone out the window, and because of that, we see the Republican Party right now is acting treasonous more than just Donald Trump in some ways. I mean, it's many of them siding with Russians as opposed to the U.S. intelligence agencies and the Democratic Party in its own right.
And the U.S. intelligence agencies, it's not like they're Democrats. I mean, there are some. There are some Democrats in those intelligence agencies, but they are siding with the Russians over people that are saying things that they don't want to hear.
Right.
You know, and that's the long and short of it.
You know, it's interesting because this is going to put the Democratic Party in kind of a predicament, because they're going to have to run a candidate who is the narrative of our intelligence agencies being corrupt has now been co-opted by the Republican Party. For the longest time, that was a Democratic Party concern. The left was talking about COINTELPRO, talking about a series of different, the NSA spying, a whole series of different, things that we could point to that the left were lambasting the intelligence communities about. But now we're going to have a situation where that entire narrative is completely flipped, and the Republican Party is the one who is holding the mantle of anti-intelligence agency. So whoever they run in 2020, it's going to, in my opinion, benefit more of a moderate voice.
An idea. That's what people want.
They need
I mean, they need at least one idea, and nothing,
Right.
and not just pure opposition. They need actual ideas, and they need to be strong. You know, every time Trump does something horrible like he did yesterday, you always read the immediate quotes from Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and it comes off like a big bowl of cold oatmeal.
Ooh,
it doesn't.
not bad.
No, thank you. But yeah, it doesn't. There's no real substance to it. It doesn't make you feel anything.
Yep. Well, they have their, I think, when it comes to foreign policy, we're not, if we stay out of war, that would be beneficial for the Republican Party, I suppose. Also, you could run more of a hawkish Democrat now and say, no, we need to stop all of this stuff happening overseas, finally put an end to the Russian intervention in Syria and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting campaign, to say the least.
And you know what I thought about as well? When they asked, of course, remember just a couple days ago, we would be talking about this had it not been for the Helsinki summit, when a reporter asked Donald Trump, who do you think America's greatest foe is? And he said the EU.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And that got me thinking, it's like, when was the last time we talked about ISIS?
Right.
When was the last time we talked about the actual foes of the United States, the physical foes of the United States?
Right. Yeah. I mean, perhaps a candidate who comes forward, very strong pro-NATO, trying to, almost, it is similar to some degree what Obama did in 2007 when he was campaigning, that led to the so-called apology tour, which really wasn't an apology tour.
Wasn't at all. It was an acknowledgement tour.
Yeah, it could be someone who says, let's strengthen our ties with our allies. Let's kind of double down on NATO. Stay with the supporting of the EU. Obviously, with Brexit and all that kind of stuff, Donald Trump being kind of part of that wave when he was over there with Theresa May, criticizing her and then not criticizing her. He does a lot of backtracking because he doesn't do any forward thinking whatsoever. He just says it and then deals with it. So perhaps a candidate like that, kind of going back to the more classic world order, perhaps something like that could make sense. But going back to Helsinki, Donald Trump was given a gift. Did you see this?
Oh, the nice shiny ball?
He got a ball. And he was so happy, and he said, "That I'm going to give that ball to Barron."
Yeah.
But what do you think? He kept it. I'm sure that he did. He had to have.
Well, he did awkwardly toss it to Melania.
Yes, he said, Putin said, "I'll give this ball to you, and now the ball is in your court," which is funny. That's a joke. That's a KGB joke.
I was sitting on my couch, and he said that shit, and I just went, "Ah!"
Yeah.
Oh, man, the whole thing, it just made me feel so gross.
Oh, yeah.
It was unsettling to watch. I didn't quite know what to think, but watching it, I can see what Trump supporters get out of it, because when you listen, when you listen to Trump talk, when I listen to Trump talk, I find myself thinking, man, I wish I lived in his world. You know, I wish I lived in his world where everything was so cut and dry, everything was so simple, where, you know, there is an opposition that is so clear and the world is so simple and so clear cut, and where I'm coming out on top because I'm following him. I'm coming out on top.
Yeah.
Like, you can hear the siren song when you watch Donald Trump. Like, I get where people are coming from when they follow him, because he makes them feel good. But I don't know how we're going to break people out of that. You know, how we're going to break people out of that comfort, because that's exactly what we were talking about last week with the nail factory. With the nail factory, these people are losing their jobs, yet they're still supporting Trump and his policies at the same time because he just makes them feel good.
Yeah, I mean, once those tariffs take hold and once we really see what those do to the economy, very, very few economists think it's going to be a positive outcome for us. Perhaps, you know, and again, that's another thing the Democrats can run on. Jabs, jabs, jobs, and repealing tariffs. It's a strange world. Yeah.
Hey there, guys. This is Marcus Parks for Stitch Fix. You know, it can be tough to dress stylishly, especially if you have a schedule like mine. So after a busy week, the last thing I want to do is go to the mall or a department store, and I'm sure you're the same way. So it's easy to get into a style rut wearing the same old outfits, but you can get yourself looking stylish in no time with a little help from Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix makes it super easy to find and buy clothes. All you gotta do is answer some basic questions about your sizes, favorite styles, and budget right from your laptop, smartphone, or tablet. And your personal stylist then springs into action, hand-selecting 5 brand new clothing items just for you. I know what you're thinking. A personal stylist isn't exactly something the average guy can afford. But Stitch Fix's styling fee is only $20, which is applied as a credit towards anything you keep. And since your personal stylist uses only your preferences to pick your clothes, you're still in complete control over your look. Once your items arrive, try them on, and only pay for what you keep. Don't like something? Need another size? Just send the items back, no questions asked. And shipping is always free both ways. Get your fix whenever you want or sign up to receive scheduled shipments. The choice is yours. I look great thanks to Stitch Fix, and you can too. I've been using it for a few months now, and I gotta say, I gotta give this service big old thumbs up. I got some great shorts, got some great pants, belt, some brown shoes I really enjoy, and a couple of great button-up shirts, and I'm a bit of a lazy man when it comes to fashion, so it's been nice to have someone do all the work for me. Now hurry to stitchfix.com/tophat to get started now. Keep all 5 items in your box and you'll get 25% off your entire purchase. That's stitchfix.com/tophat. That's stitchfix.com/tophat.
It was interesting because Mueller and his crew, they ended up indicting 12 Russian military officers a couple of days before the Helsinki meeting. And some folks thought, oh, why would they do this before? They're trying to derail Donald Trump. But in my opinion, I was like, you just gave him such a gift. You can just go. He could have looked strong so much easier now. He could have just asked Vladimir Putin to give over the 12. Obviously, Putin wouldn't have. But it's something that he can go to and say, we have some proof here, Mr. Putin. We got 12 more officials indicted by Mueller. What do you say about this? And not believe him when he says the answer, which is that they didn't do it, and actually press him a little bit. I thought that was some meat that was given to Donald Trump, that if he chose to chew on it, it could have been beneficial, and he wouldn't have looked like such a pathetic sap. And now today he looks like a kid covered in frosting, telling his parents that he didn't eat the cake.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like an apologetic dog right now. And it's such a weak position for him to be in. And Vladimir Putin, according to RT and the state-sponsored media over there, is being heavily praised for outmaneuvering Donald Trump, for just simply getting everything that he wanted. So Donald Trump looks like a goof to the Russians, because they understand what game they're playing, and he looks like a traitor to the American people. This was a disaster.
This was a huge disaster. And I think the reason why he didn't use that is because Donald Trump is a weakling. He has no spine. I don't think
his body language during that entire press conference was so straight. He like humbled himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't bow to certain leaders that maybe bowing is part of their protocol, and that's fine. American, like what did Aragon say to Frodo? You bow to no one. Something like that.
Yes, my friends. You bow to no one.
But they're so tiny. They're already bowing. If you're Frodo, it's not like, I don't need Frodo to, anyway. But yes, in this situation, he looked like, even though it's not the norm for a proper Russian introduction to bow, he seemed like he was bowing and humbling himself the whole time to this mass murderer.
And he was nodding along.
He loved it.
The whole time he was nodding along to everything that Vladimir Putin was saying. It was ridiculous to watch. I felt like I was taking crazy pills.
Well, to be fair, both you and I do. So that works.
But we have anti-crazy pills. We're taking anti-crazy.
Oh, my God. Yeah, what a spectacle. And who would have thought that he would have been, with all the tough talk, although,
well,
when it comes to talk, it is interesting. With the Russians, I guess we should have expected... I didn't expect anything too hostile from Donald Trump.
No.
Because he's been saying that he wants a relationship with Putin. He's been saying he likes Putin this entire time.
Yeah, he loves it.
It was just the amount of the total lack of spine was a little bit shocking.
Well, I think the reason why he praises strong men and the reason why he likes strong men is because strong men scare him. I think Kim Jong-un scares him. I think Vladimir Putin scares him. These guys absolutely terrify him. And anytime you put them in a room together, he can't help but bow to them. Like he's like a dog, where he gets in the room with these evil characters and he shows his belly every single time. He can't even stand up. He can't even stand up to him on Twitter. Every time he tries to stand up to these guys on Twitter, he ends up coming off pathetic. And especially when it comes to Putin, like anytime he criticized Putin on Twitter, it sounds like someone made him do it.
Right.
And he doesn't like doing it.
Well, and the U.S. has put on some sanctions against the Russians. The intelligence community, the Pompeos of the world, John Bolton, who I know and is like should not be in the position that he's in, but nonetheless, they're much more hawkish on Russia. It's just Trump. And it's so bizarre because obviously he went way off script in Helsinki. But when it comes to the small amount of action that we've taken against the Russians for what happened in 2016, he does it so hesitantly. He is like when your parents made you go to church and you don't want to go to church because you were watching Saturday Night Live all night.
That's right.
A very personal reference.
Oh, I
but
understand.
You just go there and you're forced to do it. And that's what's so interesting when it comes to this relationship. And then when he was finally on a stage with the guy in front of cameras, that's the way he acted. So again, we just have no idea what happened behind the scenes, and I hope they do subpoena the interpreters because what was said, first of all, if you're an interpreter, that's got to be a tough job with Trump because he speaks very unique. And so you're just like, how do you circle around to like translate Trumpism language to a foreign leader? But nonetheless, while they were over there, an NRA-linked Russian spy was charged. This is a woman. Her name was Maria Butina. She's 29 years old. She was a Russian national living in Washington, D.C., and she was here supposedly part of a pro-gun rights group. She was here to, quote, developing relationships with U.S. persons and infiltrating organizations having influence in American politics for the purpose of advancing the interests of the Russian Federation. That was according to the Justice Department. Now, the announcement came out just hours after Trump said at a joint press conference with Russian President Putin in Helsinki that there's no reason Russia would have meddled in the 2016 presidential election. Again, other than the fact that Vladimir Putin wanted to see Donald Trump win. So that we got a spy being busted here. It happens every 2 or 3 years. They tend to send redheads. Yeah. And I don't know why. Maybe they don't like them over there or they think that we really like them here. I'm not sure. Because as a redhead, we're not the most loved.
No, absolutely not. And the NRA is getting wrapped up in a lot of Russian stuff because the NRA served as a funnel. It served as almost a kind of money laundering operation for Russian donors because Russians
about $30 million they got.
Yep, Russians. Various Russians gave $30 million to the NRA, and the NRA then gave that money to Republicans.
Right.
So the money has been flowing from Russia through the NRA to United States government officials. That is a fact. I will repeat that again. Money has been flowing from Russia through the NRA to United States government officials, including the president. Some of the highest ranked Republican officials around have been getting money from the Russians through the NRA. That cannot be overstated.
No, and there's a reason why this is happening.
Yeah.
It's been a long game. It's been a long process. It's been a long time coming, and there is a reason why Republicans now like the Russians more than the Democratic Party or parts of their own party who want Donald Trump to be a little bit harder on Putin. I mean, that stuff just isn't accidental.
No,
and it's fascinating to see it happen right in front of us. And it's in plain sight.
Yeah,
and I think a little hindsight in this situation is going to do us very good. And at some point, diehard Trump supporters, they're just going to have to realize that they are supporting the greatest adversary, basically since after the Cold War, without a doubt, to the United States, the Russian government, the oligarchs, and Vladimir Putin. They're just going to have to realize that if you support Donald Trump, you are also then supporting Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation. I mean, and let's not forget what happened when in 2011, Obama met with the then sitting Russian president. He's, of course, just a puppet for Putin. It's Medvedev, I think, something like
Medvedev?
that. There's a lot of V's and a lot of so. But he had a hot mic moment where he told him that he was going to have more wiggle room after the election, and everyone on the right went totally crazy and was like, "I can't believe it! That's treasonous! He's a traitor to the country." And then you also have the situation in 2012 where the left laughed Mitt Romney off the stage for saying that the Russians are our number one adversary globally.
I remember that.
That was correct, it turns out, So for the longest time, the Russians have been dividing us as a country and doing a hell of a job with KGB tactics. So that's what makes it all even so much more stunning for the intelligence community when they're like, you can't believe Vladimir Putin. Like, you just can't believe him.
Yeah, you can't.
But because we know how to lie, because we lie all the time.
Yeah.
And I promise you he's lying.
He is a professional liar.
That's the whole job. That's the whole job.
He was an espionage for decades.
Right.
He is very good at it. He is amazing at it.
Yeah.
And he is very good at manipulation. And man, how long has he been in the presidency now overall? Or how long has he been in
2000.
power? Since 2000.
Yep.
So this guy has
about 20 years now. So
20 years at the highest level of power. He knows what he's doing.
I mean,
and
when he
had
took power,
decades before.
When he took power, obviously Gorby ruins the whole Soviet Union, and since he's taken power, democratic elections have gone out the window. Obviously, human rights have completely gone out the window. They are expanding on a regular basis. You look at the annexing of Crimea, Ukraine. It is such a long game that he's been playing, and he's just getting every single thing that he wants, and it's phenomenal to see. Well, I mean, when he was elected fairly in 2000, well, as fairly as he can be in the Russian elections. I mean, we have a difficult time here as well. 2000, of course, that was the Bush v. Gore election, which people thought the Supreme Court it's partisan, but it's not supposed to be. And I think that was one of those like, oh, it is partisan moments that kind of eroded our faith in the Supreme Court a little bit. But it's just incredible to see what he's done over the past 18 years.
Well, I think it's incredible for him to see as well, because when you look at his face, especially during that press conference, you kind of get a feeling that he can't believe how well it's going.
Yeah, I know. He smiles, but like he really seems like he means it. And I think the only way for him to be happy, like he smiles at like Raging Bull when he's beating his wife. Like that's like the funniest scene in the movie for him, he's just one of those kinds of guys. And
he smiles when he's angry too, because he smiled a lot in that Chris Wallace interview.
Oh that means I'm going to kill you. That's what he's smiling about.
He's smiling. If you were Russian, I would have you murdered.
Yes,
because that's what I do to journalists I don't enjoy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking of moderate people, although I know Ben Sass isn't a lot of people's favorites, he is a Republican, and I think he votes with Republicans the vast majority of the time. As a person, he seems to be a little bit, he's a little charismatic. But he said this about the meeting. He said, a better thing, Mr. President, would be to declare Russia is the enemy of America and our allies, and we will expose and respond to their continued cyber attacks against our nation. And he is actually running for election, so at least he's not one of these Bob Corkers or Jeff Flakes of the world who all of a sudden are really emboldened to say what they think because they have no stake anymore in getting reelected because they're quitting because they don't think they're going to win.
What world do we live in where standing up to the Russians and saying that the president should stand up to the Russians is a political risk?
I know, it's unbelievable. It's really fascinating to see. But anyway, Donald Trump is walking back those words today and will be probably for the next couple of days here.
And then everyone will forget about it.
And maybe everyone forgets about it. As we mentioned just briefly, Stormy Daniels, of course, she was the gal. She was paid, what was it? Was it $30,000 or $300,000?
I think it was $130,000.
$130,000. She was paid that kind of hush money after an affair she had with Donald Trump. She was working at a club in Ohio. These undercover officers walked in and they arrested her because they said that they were inappropriately touching her. Apparently, the rules of Ohio, or maybe it's just the club, you can't touch the dancers or whatever it might be. And she didn't remove their hands, so she was arrested for not removing their hands from her body. Obviously, people who are dancers and stuff like that, like this, everyone would be arrested. Yeah. Like if this was a very heavily enforced law. And so it just seemed to me like, and of course, all those charges were dropped later that night. But it just seemed to me like such a political stunt by these undercover officers. What a hard shift. Oh my God. I can't believe you had to go undercover at an adult entertainment establishment.
So they did a sting operation.
They did
where
a sting on Stormy Daniels. Yeah, out of all the things that are happening in Ohio.
They did a sting where the undercover agents groped a woman.
Basically. But she didn't stop them from doing that. Therefore, she was arrested.
It's fucking awful.
Yeah, it was horrible. So she was, obviously, again, all the charges were dropped. And leave Stormy alone.
Leave Stormy alone, God damn it.
Good Lord Almighty. All right. Well, that's basically the biggest stories here. I mean, you've all heard the kind of cliche narrative now, turning our backs on our allies and trying to join up with our adversaries. That's the worldview of Donald Trump. It's a globalist worldview. It's any other worldview.
The cliche that keeps going through my mind is that what people have been saying about Donald Trump since the election is that he's a weak man's version of a strong man.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't show that any more clearly than he did during the press conference in Helsinki.
And who knows why Donald Trump is acting this way.
What is the compromat?
I don't know. We just don't know.
We don't know.
Hopefully, at some point, I think we will get the information.
I think at some point everything is going to be laid out. I think we're going to know at some point. We are going to know beginning to end what this story is, what happened here.
Well, I mean, if you go back and it's actually pretty short, the indictment of the 12 Russians, they know a lot. And because they know that they're never going to be extradited to the United States, they gave us a lot in the rundown there. They know their numbers, they know where they worked, what unit they were in. They know a lot about these people that were just indicted. So I think they obviously have the ability to get a lot of information, and it seems like the silent but deadly Mueller is collecting as much data as he can possibly find, and who knows what happens.
And also, by the way, Trump knew for about a week beforehand that those Russians were going to be indicted.
He still gets all the intelligence reports.
He got the intelligence report last Monday, and they were indicted on what, Thursday?
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, but he knew and he approved, that they were going to be indicted. He knew since last week.
Yeah, and again, I mean, none of these people are great people. Mueller, if you go YouTube Mueller saying he likes to put people in jail, he does say that. These are all cold dudes. That's to say the least, but. At this point, it's just interesting to have a president who does not believe his own government and chooses to believe a foreign government, specifically the Russians. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
If it was the French, I think I'd just go, huh.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, I mean,
that's weird. That's really weird that he's believing the French over the government. Like, just put any other country in the world and think how bizarre that would
Well,
be.
man, and it's just he's playing out what he does on a global level. Like, now, for example, with all the sexual assault allegations, the third debate, bringing in Juanita Broderick, Willie, two other women, sitting them in the front row. It's whatever I'm accused of, I'm going to accuse you of the same thing. And of course, there are some very valid claims there against the former President Bill Clinton. But when it comes to Russia, a week ago, or a little bit less, he said Angela Merkel, it's Angela, by the way.
It is Angela.
It's a hard, which...
It's German. Come on. You're one of them.
I know, but it doesn't mean we can't have a soft G here every now and again. Angela Merkel, he said the Germans and Angela Merkel have been bought and sold by the Russians.
Yeah.
He just said exactly what some people believe he is.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, bought and sold by the Russians.
And
so
then-
that it's just so classic.
And I did love Angela Merkel coming back and pretty much saying, "Listen, motherfucker, I grew up in Russian-occupied East Berlin. Don't tell me about being bought and sold by the Russians."
I wouldn't mess with her.
Yeah, I mean, it also just shows again like his complete and total misunderstanding, or not even misunderstanding, his ignorance of history. He
has no understanding,
he has
no care for it either.
Zero. Yeah, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like to know about it, and it pisses him off when people point it out to him because it makes him feel dumb.
It's, this is confirmation bias at a global level, and it is in the White House. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
You keep the pieces of history that you like, and then disregard everything else, and then that's why you have a very small, narrow worldview.
Yeah,
and that's how it works, and that's why a lot of people. I mean, there's cult-like activity going on all over this country, but it seems to me like there's a couple of Anna Navarra, I think, who is what she is, but she was talking about cultism and Trump, and we've been talking about that a lot. And we've covered a lot of cults on last podcast, and man, I don't know.
We've been talking about cultism and Trump since our Scientology series, 2.5 years ago?
Right.
3 years ago? And we talked about it during Jonestown as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every cult that we've covered since Donald Trump's rise to fame and rise to prominence, we see the exact same displays of behavior on a micro scale that we're seeing on a macro scale with Donald Trump.
It's interesting. I mean, just going back to one of the speeches he gave recently where he's talking about how they call the left the elites, and he's like, our houses are better, our toilets are better, we have more money, I got more boats, and then everyone's like, yeah, he's like, and then we're the elites, and everyone's like, we're the elites. I'm like, you're not the like. No. It's just such a televangelist vibe.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, they just want to live, as you mentioned earlier, vicariously through him.
Yeah.
Although I can't imagine that they felt good watching that press conference, but who knows?
You're not the elite. You're saving up money to fix your garage door opener.
Yeah.
You're not an elite. I'm sorry.
No, but
At
Donald
least
Trump's
in the
not
way
going to
that
make you one either.
In the way that he's talking about it, like you don't have a gold toilet. You're never going to have a gold toilet, and it doesn't matter how much you follow Donald Trump or what cliff you follow him off. You're never going to have that.
No. Maybe a bidet?
Bidet.
Ooh.
You can get a bidet.
Anyone can.
I think even if you're like middle class to upper middle class, if you save up enough and if you know enough about plumbing, I think you could get a bidet in like 6 to 8 months with some really good YouTube instructional videos.
Cool, man. I think that's how Dale from King of the Hill would do it. Do it himself. Look at some YouTube instructions. Why not? All right, everyone. Well, that's basically the biggest news story of the week there. A lot to unpack, but hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for listening. Let's see. We're going to be at Comic-Con this weekend.
Yeah, we are.
So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll see y'all there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, can't wait. All right, everyone. Hail yourselves. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.